You ever do something as a kid that still keeps you up at night? Something small, stupid, even, that you thought you could just bury and forget. Because eventually, you grow up, right? You move on. You tell yourself that time erases everything. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the things you've done don't stay buried. Sometimes they dig their way back up. The story I'm about to tell you isn't about ghosts or demons. It's about guilt, and the thing that guilt becomes when you try to ignore it for too long. My name doesn't matter. All you need to know is that once a long time ago, my friends and I locked someone in a school locker. And I've been paying for it ever since. Greg always seemed untouchable. He was that kind of guy who could talk his way out of anything, the one who could charm a cop while drunk, then somehow get them to drive him home instead of writing a ticket. He carried himself like the rules of the world didn't apply to him. Maybe that's why it felt unreal when I got the call. It was his sister crying so hard she couldn't form words at first. I thought their mom had died. But when she finally spoke, I had to ask her to repeat it. The police found Greg's body in his apartment after he hadn't shown up to work for 2 days. They said there was no forced entry, no signs of a break-in, but they wouldn't let the family see the body. His sister overheard one of the officers during a smoke break. His limbs were twisted, his spine bent like someone had wrung him out from both ends. His eyes were gone. I remember sitting there, phone in hand, feeling the world go silent. Greg, the one who always got away with everything, was gone. And the way he died didn't make sense. The funeral was small. Greg had plenty of friends, but only a handful showed up. The rest sent flowers or excuses. Outside the church, I saw Jaime. Her makeup was streaked from crying, but she still looked sharp, unfiltered, the same girl I remembered. Raf and Lex were there too. The four of us grew up together, inseparable for most of our lives. Back then, we used to joke that we were stuck with each other forever. I guess we were right. Only now one of us was a framed photo on an easel and a casket that stayed closed. During the service, I barely listened to the priest. I just kept looking around, half expecting Greg to stroll in from the back with that smug grin of his and whisper something like, "Weird to see people cry for you, huh?" Afterward, none of us wanted to go home. We stood in the parking lot under the gray sky, talking in half sentences, until a man in a plain suit walked up. Mid-40s, tired eyes. He introduced himself as Detective Harlan. He apologized for interrupting, but said he had a few questions. Did Greg have any enemies? He asked. We all shook our heads. Everyone liked Greg. That was the truth. Then he said something that froze the air. Does the name Danny mean anything to you? We looked at each other, all of us, wearing the same face, that flicker of recognition. We hoped nobody noticed. Jaime crossed her arms. No, doesn't ring a bell. The detective held our eyes for a moment longer, then nodded. Understood. Thank you for your time. He handed us his card and walked away. The moment he was out of earshot, Raf exhaled shakily. Danny Trillo, I said. I hadn't said that name in over a decade. Danny had been in our class from 6th grade until halfway through sophomore year. He was the quiet type, thin. Glasses too big for his face, always hunched forward like he wanted to disappear. And we didn't let him. To make it simple, we bullied him. We thought it was harmless, stupid teenage cruelty. But the last day I saw him, we went too far. It was after school. The hallways were empty. Someone dared us to see if Danny could fit inside one of the old lockers by the stairwell. Raph said he couldn't. Jaime laughed and said, "Let's find out." Greg blocked the nearest exit while I held the door. Danny fought harder than I expected. He screamed, cried, begged. It just made us laugh harder. I still remember the way his shoulder pressed against mine as we shoved him inside, the clang of metal and the echo when the door slammed shut. He kept pounding on the inside. We walked away. I don't know how long he was trapped in there. Maybe until a janitor found him. Maybe all night. The next day he was gone. Just gone. The school said he transferred. There were rumors his mom came in crying, demanding answers. But nothing ever came of it. No police, no expulsion. We moved on. Or at least we thought we did. That night after the funeral, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing things, faint knocks, 3 in a row, coming from somewhere inside the house. The next morning, Raph called. He said, "You think the cop meant that Danny I didn't answer?" Because deep down, I knew he did. A few days later, the news broke. Another death. A man found dead in his apartment, body, distorted eyes missing. His name was Lex. When I heard it, I couldn't breathe. It was happening again. We went to the police station, and Jaime told Detective Harlan everything. We'd lied before, but not now. We told him about Danny, about the locker, about what we did. The detective just nodded slowly. We found that name at both scenes. No other connection, no sign of forced entry, no fingerprints. That's when it hit me. Whoever or whatever was doing this, it wasn't breaking in. It was being let in. We tried to find out what happened to Danny after high school. Jaime pulled old records. Raph called the school office. What we found made my blood run cold. Danny's parents had been found dead less than a week after he transferred. The report said massive internal trauma. No weapon recovered. No suspect identified. The file said Danny had been relocated to a state facility. Address sealed. And then nothing. He'd vanished from every record. It was like the world erased him. Jaime started losing sleep. She said she heard knocking at night, 3 sharp taps, like metal on metal. Raph tried to joke it off, but he was jumpy too. We all were. One night, Jaime texted me, "I can't take this. I keep feeling someone's watching me." The next day, I got a call from Detective Harlan. They found Jaime dead in her holding cell. He didn't give details, but I didn't need them. Another closed space. Another impossible death. I remember hanging up and realizing we were next. Ralph and I packed what we could and left town that night. We didn't have a plan. Just get as far as possible. We stayed at my place for a while, sleeping in shifts. He kept a gun nearby. One night, I woke up to a dull pounding sound. 3 knocks. It came from the guest room. "Raph," I whispered. No answer. The air smelled sour like rot. When I opened the door, I froze. Raph was on the bed, or what was left of him. His body bent backward, spine cracked open, jaw hanging loose. And something was crouched over him. Its skin was gray and thin, like wet paper stretched too tight. Its arms dragged on the floor, fingers bone white and jointed wrong. Its head turned toward me, eyes hollow pits that seemed to breathe. I raised the gun and fired. Every shot hit. It didn't even flinch. I ran. The hallway exploded behind me as it tore through the door. I locked myself in the bedroom, shoved a dresser against the frame. Then the window shattered. Hands grabbed me, human hands, and yanked me out. We hit the ground, hard rolled, and ran toward a car down the street. The man driving looked back at me, face gaunt, eyes, sunken beard, overgrown. He said, "It's me, Danny." My brain refused to believe it. This man looked like he'd aged 20 years more than he should have. He drove in silence for a while before speaking again. "I forgave you a long time ago," he said. He told me about what happened after that night. How he prayed not to God, but to something for revenge on everyone who ever hurt him. And something answered. His parents were the first to die. Then the others. Every name he whispered in anger, gone one by one. He said he'd been running, ever since moving from town to town, trying to stop it. He tried priests, hunters, doctors. Nothing worked. He said the thing wasn't human. It was a hunger given shape, and once it started, it wouldn't stop. "You were the last name," he said quietly. "It just took time to find you. I didn't know whether to hate him or pity him." He brought me to an abandoned farmhouse. Inside were pages taped to the walls, symbols, notes, names, fragments of prayers. Danny had been preparing for this for years. He'd made bullets soaked in a chemical mix, silver salt lye iron filings, things that burned it before. He had 3 left. He loaded the rifle and said, "It needs bait. You're the last one on its list." I didn't argue. I was too numb. We waited for hours. Then the wind stopped. The door burst inward. That thing moved through the frame like smoke and bone. Danny fired. It screamed a high grinding sound that split my skull. He fired again, hitting its spine. The creature twisted body folding in on itself. I grabbed a broken iron rod and drove it into its neck. Black fluid poured out, thick and sour. Danny fired the last shot into its throat. The thing convulsed, shrieked once more, then collapsed into ash. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Danny slid down against the wall, clutching his side. Blood leaked through his fingers. He looked up at me and said, "We did it." Then, after a long pause, "You have to shoot me." I thought he was delirious, but he was calm. He said the police wouldn't believe what happened, that they needed someone to blame. He wanted me to say he killed the others, came after me, and I fought back. He said, "If you don't do this, they'll think you did. They'll lock you away. Let them have me." I told him no. He pushed the gun into my hand anyway. "You don't owe me forgiveness," he said, "but I owe you closure." I remember my hands shaking. I pulled the trigger. He slumped sideways, eyes still open. I called the police, told them the story he wanted me to tell. They came, took me in, took him away. The newspapers ran it as a revenge killing. They said a man traumatized by childhood bullying snapped after years of mental illness. They made Greg, Lex, and Jaime the victims, Danny the villain, and me the survivor. A few months later, I heard Danny had died from the gunshot wound. I told myself it was over. But last week, my phone buzzed in the middle of the night. No caller ID. When I answered, there was only static, and beneath it, faint and metallic, came 3 slow knocks. That was the last time I ever heard from Danny. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. I moved away after that new town, new job, new name. But some nights when everything goes quiet, I still hear it. 3 knocks, soft, metallic, like something trying to remind me that it's not finished. If you ever hear that sound, don't open the door. Don't answer the call. Some debts don't stay dead. They just wait for you to remember them.